Much like everyone else, I'm excited for a new Resident Evil game, which was confirmed to be in the works as of recently. But to be completely honest, I'm kind of tired of hearing fake leaks and other nonsense like that. But we can still theorize and use the information we have to sort of piece together who the next main character in the Resident Evil franchise will be. Let's start by saying that we know for sure Chris Redfield survives until 2037. We know this because at the end of the Shadows of Rose DLC in Resident Evil 8 or RE Village, we see a time skip. We see adult Rose or young woman Rose talk about Chris, and the year is 2037. So we know Chris makes it until 2037, so he is confirmed to be still involved in the Resident Evil franchise, at least up until that point. He's sort of like 60 or 70 at that point in time, I think. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it's very unlikely for Chris to be a playable character in any future games, unless they take place in the past. Another big leak and rumor is Leon S. Kennedy. Of course, this isn't confirmed, but he is also part of the potential next main characters. If you want my honest opinion, I don't think Leon will be the main focus of the next game. He might be referenced in the form of files or perhaps make it into a cutscene or two, but I highly doubt Leon S. Kennedy will be involved in Resident Evil 9. Next up, we have Jill Valentine. Now, this one's another big rumor that people likes talking about in their videos and their fake leaks. Well, Jill Valentine, actually, in my honest opinion, she is very likely to return in the next game. Most importantly, because if you haven't watched the latest CGI movie, Jill Valentine's character arc is still kind of incomplete. And you know this if you've watched the entire Resident Evil Death Island movie. You can see Jill struggling with her inner self after suffering what she did with Albert Wesker in the events of Resident Evil 5. In case you don't know, the CGI movie, the latest one, takes place after Resident Evil 5, and this is Jill's latest appearance in the entire franchise. So we really don't know what she's up to. So we could see an end to her character arc in Resident Evil 9. At least that's my opinion. Next up, we have Claire Redfield. Now, Claire is another fun favorite, but unfortunately, Capcom doesn't agree. In fact, Claire has always been pushed to the sidelines, ever since the original games. She wasn't really featured since Resident Evil 2 or Resident Evil Code Veronica. She's always been part of the side games, you know, the spin-off games. She hasn't been in an official numbered Resident Evil since RE2, and that was 1998. Well, we don't count the remake, but if we count the remake, that was 2019. That was still 6 years ago. That's crazy. So we could potentially see a return of Claire, but I think it's very unlikely, as I don't think Claire would be involved in the current happenings that are going on in the Resident Evil universe. I could name a lot more characters, but let's talk about the important ones, at least the ones in recent history. So Rebecca Chambers comes to mind. Rebecca is a wonderful character that actually is an underdog. I don't think a lot of the fans in the entire community like Rebecca, but if you're a devout follower, you've been following the CGI movies and you really get to see Rebecca shine in the Resident Evil movies, especially Resident Evil Death Island. She really gets to shine in that movie, and I'm not getting paid to say this, but I recommend you watch that movie, because it really is very good. Anyway, will she be in the next game? Of course we don't know, but it is highly unlikely that she will be the next main character in Resident Evil 9. Well, speaking of lore, let's talk about the characters that actually don't have that much lore. Carlos and Billy. These two characters did survive their respective games. In case you don't know, Carlos was part of the Resident Evil 3 crew, and Billy was part of the Resident Evil 0 crew. Now, these characters do make it out alive in their games, but they didn't really receive any more lore after that. We know Carlos continued his life of perhaps doing merc work, but that's pretty much it. We know Billy survives the events of Raccoon City, and perhaps he found a way to make it out of Raccoon City? Not entirely sure. But these two characters are most likely never going to be referenced again, sadly, but there is still hope, as they're still unconfirmed. So we will consider them alive until proven otherwise. Another character is Sherry Birkin. Now, Sherry Birkin's last appearance was Resident Evil 6. Now, excuse me for not having finished Resident Evil 6, but I do believe Sherry is still kicking out there. She is still alive, and she could potentially return, and perhaps maybe she has something to say to Rosemary Winters, since they're both pretty much superhumans, mutants, or whatever you want to call them. Lastly, we have Ada Wong and Sheva. Well, needless to say, Ada Wong is a fan favorite character. She is an amazing sidekick, but also mysterious character. I don't think Ada Wong belongs in the main character sort of, category. I think the reason why people love Ada Wong so much is because she's so mysterious and she's always the side character. You don't know whether she is good or bad, or if she, what she's up to. I think she is much better than Moira in terms of side character, but she's not quite earned her place as a main character just yet. And I don't think Capcom wants to put her in that place, because part of the charm of Ada is that she's mysterious and you never know what she's up to. So, whether she'll return or not, maybe she'll return, but not as a main character. Sheva was the second main character in Resident Evil 5, and I highly doubt she will ever return again outside of a Resident Evil 5 remake. Mostly because Capcom really didn't bother adding more lore to Sheva, which is a shame. But perhaps with the Resident Evil 5 remake coming, if that does indeed come, maybe we'll see her in Resident Evil 10, who knows. And lastly, we have Rose Winters. Rose Winters is one of the main protagonists already. She was, or is, the daughter of Ethan Winters, who sadly passed away in Resident Evil Village. Rosemary Winters is currently alive as of 2037, and she has superhuman powers, meaning she will most likely now be a main character. Mostly because it would be pointless. She could just throw a fireball or freeze enemies with her amazing superpowers. Unless they somehow take her powers away and she tries to take them back. Who knows? I do believe Rosemary Winters will return in Resident Evil 9, but as a villain. Yes, that's right. I do believe Rosemary Winters will be a villain in RE9 because, she has superpowers. She can't be a main character. And this is where you might be wondering, Neon, you said none of these characters will be main characters. Well, I think Resident Evil 9 will feature a brand new character. It will most likely take place in the same universe, but I think it'll be the start of a brand new story. I don't think any of the characters will return in sort of a main, position. I think we will see a brand new beginning for Resident Evil inside of the same universe. Maybe the characters will be referenced in the files and other things like that, but I don't think any of the current main cast will be part of Resident Evil 9. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments down below. Do you want a new character? Do you want a fresh start from zero? Or would you like to see one of the existing original characters as the playable character in Resident Evil 9? If you want my honest opinion, I want something new, but also I wouldn't mind, seeing Claire again. I want to see her having her RE4 moment, you know? You know how Leon goes all badass mode in RE4? Yeah, I want to see that but with Claire, which she arguably already had in Revelations too. But I want to see more. Anyway, I honestly think we will see a brand new story, brand new characters within the same universe of Resident Evil. And perhaps it's time to start over, reset, and go back to survival horror with brand new characters. Anyway, please consider leaving a like, subscribe to stay up to date with guides, easy guides, walkthroughs, playthroughs, more fun modded stuff, and Resident Evil 9 news, and perhaps RE5 Remake. Click the bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.